Okay, cool. And we're recording.
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode. This time, we're doing another interview with Arjun and Bhavani from Retriever AI. So, before we start, we're your hosts. I'm Shashank, and I have with me Mark, who's joining us from Colombia, but hopefully his internet connection holds up. I work at the Google AI Labs, building language applications with the LLMs that the Gemini and DeepMind teams work on. And Mark is currently on hiatus from his gig at Amazon, working on some super secret stealth projects that maybe, once he makes enough progress, he can share with the rest of the world. But yeah, we have two awesome people who've been working on a really cool browser extension which adds agentic LLM AI capabilities right into your browser on your desktop, which is kind of unique compared to some of the other agentic browser or computer use applications, which run on some remote server in the cloud somewhere far away. But this has a lot of benefits. It crawls through the DOM, which allows it to inspect and control a lot of the web page without actually looking at it. So it can open up a bunch of different tabs in the background, do work on your behalf, and also log into websites that have credentials. So if you have a special access to some kind of a research publications paper document website, you can log into that and allow Retriever to access all these custom portals for you. Um, so before we start, Arjun gave us a talk at our meetup, and we kind of started chatting about his background. He used to work at Google, and it's funny, we crossed paths very briefly. He worked on the Google Home team under Naga Satish, who I also hung out with pretty frequently, and he also worked with Lenjoy's team, another startup that we had demo at our meetup with GenSpark, which is another cool agentic AI company. But it just goes to show that it's such a small world where a lot of accomplished, amazing people cross paths very frequently. So with that, Arjun and Pamani, would you guys like to tell us a little bit about your background? What brought you from big tech into the startup world? And tell us a little bit about your journey in starting Retriever AI.
Yeah, I'm Arjun. I worked at Google for 5 years a little bit on in Google Home, like a couple months, and then I switched teams, like right in the heart of the pandemic to Google Display Ads and working on pioneering vertical federated learning at Google. So it's like where you train models across data silos where the underlying user data doesn't leave that silo. So maybe you want to train a model across different Google platforms, like say YouTube, Play Store, all of these different things, but that user data can't leave that individual silo. So you want to train a model that can have these privacy guarantees, these compliance guarantees, and still understands the underlying user behavior. That is, these patterns that are emerging from these collection of features. So it's very interesting, like first of a kind work at Google itself. Very like so trained on models on billions of users of user data, like at Google scale, and serving on billions of dollars of ad traffic, also Google scale. Yeah. But me and Bhavani, we did hackathons together. Like after ChatGPT came out, I personally was like, oh, this is going to change everything. And so we were trying to figure out cool implementations, and that's how like those hackathon projects emerged into Retriever.
Yeah. So I'm Bhavani. I come from like CS and MBA backgrounds. I did my CS from India, worked at Microsoft, Adobe, like building AI applications to like combat, let's say, spam, UGC abuse across stack of Adobe applications from your like a PDF document, like creative assets to like a video generated assets by users. So that was a great ride of like, yeah, the full stack engineer, a little bit of this uh, entrance into like research side of things. But I've always wanted to like do something on my own, even before my whole journey to CS. But I don't know. There's this part of me like, okay, I want to go via this route, maybe a little short way of like, yeah. having a fallback or having a better income or whatever it is. So yeah, I applied for MBA. I did my MBA from USC. So during USC and after, I've been at Google on the business side. Like so, I work as like technical consultant in the Google Ads side of things, specifically leading Google TV monetization efforts, and like broadly like connected TV ads monetization, and also AI applications to improve like ads monetization or like new technologies for video revenue streams. So that's what I was focusing on. But yeah, the story of Retriever is pretty interesting. So we both of us are pretty eager about like meeting other startups, meeting other entrepreneurs, and then we've once had a chance to talk to like Arjun's roommate's girlfriend, where she's in financial analyst. So they're having a problem of manually going through, the accounting reports and audits. There are like hundreds of pages of accounting audits of each and every municipality in California, your Mountain View, San Francisco, whatnot, and then finding their debt and assets. Like basically, they're doing this all to price the bonds of the municipality, and like what is the risk factor and so on. We are like, okay, let's try to like automate this. We tackled in the pretty usual way of like scraping this and that, but as we are doing it, iterating on this, we're like, we are in the world of LLM era. There shouldn't be any scrapers, there shouldn't be any RPAs. It can be more dynamic to like any website and evolve. So that's how like the show started.
Okay, that's really cool that you kind of had your own sort of itch that you were trying to scratch, and you were able to help accounting. So I'm curious at like we talked about what Retriever does in that one particular use case, and going and scraping certain website data in order to get bond prices, I guess in this case, right? But I think that Retriever is more of a general purpose tool. In your words, like how would you describe what Retriever aims to solve and how it differentiates itself from other tools that maybe do a similar function?
Yeah, so the this one liner that I tell everyone is Retriever is an AI web agent in your own browser that can do complex tasks, scrape data to sheets, call third-party APIs, MCP servers with just prompting and in your own browser. So what we aim to solve is like these repetitive tasks that a lot like that most people's workflows have become. Like most knowledge work itself is in the browser, and it's like repetitive, like copying, pasting, or like clicking on the same button over and over, like similar buttons over and over again, filling in forms. And this kind of rote repetitive task is what we aim to solve in your own browser, because compared to other agents, there's Manus that comes to mind, Operator, that are remote and work in a data center. They don't have the credentials you do. When you make a request from this data center to LinkedIn or YouTube, for example, they just get blocked. So Operator and Manus can't work on those sites. And they obviously, you have to share your password to this like third party provider, and you have to be like, okay, like I trust you with my password, right? Like these are all the things we are like see as a differentiator. And
Yeah, and to put it in just if you want one liner, what we are trying to solve is the problems of your browser. We want to remove the bottlenecks that you're facing with your browser. Would love to know, Mark, why you use Kagi as such. But let's say this, right? People today are like, yeah, go give me the LinkedIn details of the last person I connected at, the South Bay pitch competition event. Like, if you just ask it on Google, it cannot do that. Even with like Chat GPT or like even Gemini as such, they don't have real time access to data, or like you can connect to like hardly 10 tools or 20 tools, but it's not like infinite. The web is not connected. So these are all the problems with the LLMs or a browser as a whole. We want to solve that off, like literally whatever you have in your mind day to day that you use your whole browser for, just with a simple ask your automation away, whatever it is. The ask can be simple of search result to like hundreds of entries of data to like, yeah, getting the LinkedIn details of someone you connected with. Any of these things should be possible within your browser, which is not today. And we are trying to like bridge that gap or solve it with Retriever.
Yeah, makes sense. I love the idea of being able to go to third-party sites. So for me, am accessing a lot of my own internal documents. So, for example, I have some spreadsheets where I keep track of just all of my investments, where I have a bunch of different bank accounts. I have like my Fidelity account with my investments. I have Interactive Brokers. I have, Ally Bank. I have all these different bank accounts, and I have a spreadsheet where I used to just, track everything. And I wanted to automate something like that, where I could, go and then just automatically update my bank account balance into the spreadsheet, so I could just have like one global view of what everything looked like. And I tried to write a program for it, and I kind of got a little bit of the way done, but it was a huge hassle to do something like that, because the bank changes their UI a little bit and then everything breaks, or your browser window is a little bit smaller, and then everything, all this, all the formatting kind of messes up, so it just breaks all of your import logic. And then it's like you need to log in and then have access to be able to log in. It's just a big hassle to do a lot of this scraping for your own internal data, right? And I think that something like the promise of something like Retriever is that you would be able to use your own data and have it help parse it for you and make sense of it, which I don't think anybody else does. So I think that's, it's pretty exciting to be able to have access to those third-party sites. And also, as Pavani mentioned, before we started the podcast, we were talking about Kaggy. So Kaggy is a search engine that I use. It's like a Google alternative. So I found that Retriever didn't quite work with Kaggy. I think it works much better with Google, but not many people use Kaggy, so I'm not going to hold it against you guys. I think it's completely fine.
Yeah, I think I just took a note to create a demo video of this. Like I thought about it. I knew it was possible for the combining the bank statements. But I was like, oh, I don't want to put my bank stuff on like the internet. So I was like, it's gonna be I know it's completely possible to do it, but because so with Retriever you can select multiple open tabs to take actions on, or like, so it's like putting all of these tabs in the context at once, and it could write to sheets all of that. Well, it could.
So let me show you like a quick demo of not exactly bank statements. Clearly, I cannot share that. Let's say you are
Yeah.
like,
So for the audio listeners, we're sharing the screen right now. So we're gonna. So if you want the full experience, watch the YouTube video. But yeah, we'll try to describe what we're talking about now.
yeah. So like a lot of listeners, including us here, you both as well consume a lot of like tech news or just news in general, right? Every day. Like there's a bunch of information every day. So all I'm selecting is, let's say, your corpus of information you want every day.
So Bhavani opened the Retriever Chrome extension. She selected 3 open tabs of TechCrunch, X, and Wall Street Journal, and is asking Retriever to extract the headlines across like all of those websites. So just a natural language prompt of that, and
And then I'm just asking, after selecting all these, my WSJ, X, and TechCrunch, I'm just asking extract, key headlines across all these, and then, create me like a dashboard of information across this. And the best part is with like, you do not have to know about navigating websites or like, clicking this and getting all the information across different banks accounts or different news journals. Like with Ritual, we want our users to consume the information in the way they desire. So like all you want is information across a bunch of sites. So it should be able to like gather that and then create a dashboard.
So it's like so the complex workflows that we've been trying to, I guess we took a stab at, is that like, hey, first we extract data from all these web pages to like a Google Sheet. And then from that Google Sheet, we can create like, give that information as context to do a web page generation. We find that efficient because you can parallelize the data extraction like as one, like, so it's like each tab gets its own LLM call, and we can write that as a row. And then just from that smaller sample of like this data in the Google Sheet, we can submit to like put it all together in the context to generate a web page. Otherwise, like if you put all of those tabs in at once, it's going to be super slow. Like even with the Gemini's amazing context window of 2 million tokens, it will take like a minute. And by then, like most users are like, I think it's not working. So we are very limited by like the user's patience to try us out. So we are doing these little tricks to speed up all the executions. Yeah.
Yeah. So like soon we can continue ahead. Soon it should be able to like, create like a quick dashboard like this. But you can be very like super specific, or we can go to this X link as such as
So
well.
to
Yeah.
explain to the listeners, so it extracted two Google Sheets, all of these different headlines from TechCrunch, X, and Wall Street Journal with like the titles, and
Links to them. Yeah.
then we, I guess this could be considered a dashboard by some, but
You can also ask it to make it more visual. I just asked it to create me a dashboard with all the info. You can ask it to make like a graphs on the stock plot, data across whatever it is. And you can like, yeah, oh, this article is interesting. You can give your preferences to based on the profile information you give to Retriever. So in the user config of Retriever, you can give your profile information. Hey, I'm interested in AI startups. Maybe it will only pick up AI startup events. So this way you can consume the information the way you want rather than figuring out the knobs of every website. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, just to summarize for the audio listeners, basically what they did is they took a couple of websites that are that have a lot of articles, and then they combined all of the articles together into a single link aggregator website in real time. The whole thing took, well, I mean, just while we were talking, it was happening. That was all done in real time. So, they made basically like some sort of link aggregator like Hacker News or a blog in just a couple of minutes, which is
it
pretty
could
impressive.
we prompted it to just say make an insane dashboard, or like we can work on that in the future, but like the dashboards could look much better than this. It's just a prompting problem that we faced. Yeah.
So I'm also curious, how does Retriever do with logins and captchas? Is that an issue that you guys run into?
So because it's running on your own browser, you're already logged into all of these websites. So like if you have a Wall Street Journal subscription, it would just be able to seamlessly like click the links and like look at the articles. Or like if you want to take action on LinkedIn, like we have some demo suggestion, like follow Retriever on LinkedIn, and like even they would just open LinkedIn tab and like do those actions like but so it just leverages that. And the great thing with captchas is because it's your own browser, like it's less likely to trigger all of these captchas. So if it's like even like a something like a Selenium browser running on your own device that you're like running as a script, that is likely to trigger a lot of captchas because websites are like, hey, this is kind of a bot. It doesn't have other cookies associated with like a regular user. It doesn't have these complex like settings configured. This is like automated script, and you will get captchas and face all of this. But like websites don't want to annoy their users. They don't want to like give captchas to like people running in their own browser. Like they want to minimize that as much as possible. And because of this fundamental dynamic, we get to piggyback off of that, and by operating in your own browser.
Yeah, so we're not passing any cookies or log information that exists on a given website. We're leveraging whatever that's like loading or visible on your own browser. Most of the time, as you mentioned, you will avoid the captchas, but I also have to acknowledge that if you end up a captcha at this point of time, we don't want it, we consider it as sensitive information. So we don't, Retriever will not solve that. Retriever will, you might have seen it, Mark, ask questions back to you when it wants, when it's ambiguous. So it's, we'll ask you to like, yeah, finish that for AEO. Yeah, the same thing with buying as well.
Makes sense. So would you say maybe like best practice would be to log into each of the sites that you want to get the data from first and then use Retriever and not necessarily have Retriever log in for you? So for example, if I wanted to aggregate from my Wall Street Journal or my LinkedIn, I should maybe just log in myself, have the cookies saved in my browser. So for those that don't know, cookies are just the little file that uh, the browser saves your login state. So if you ever click like the remember me button, that uh, the browser will just have a little file that remembers you, and it's just like a file that remembers that you're logged in and some state about what you're browsing. But would you say that it would be ideal to log in first and then use Retriever, or like would it be acceptable to say like, hey, Retriever, this is my username and password, and log in for me?
I think the better like sanitized approach would be to log in first, or just save your password to a password manager. And so when Retriever goes to that page, like the fields are already populated, and it will just click sign in, and nothing really leaves your browser. So like a little bit background to how Retriever works is we're actually in the Google Cloud startup program. We use Gemini under the hood, and we have a backend that communicates with the extension. So the extension is the actuator that drives actions on your browser, and we do some processing of like the pages when we in our backend to where like we communicate with Gemini. So and then there's also other like things optimizations we do. So because the prompt, this kind of data would leave your browser in that case, and like our own logs, they get deleted after 2 days or like after a couple of days. So it's like just more sanitary, more sanitized to
not put passwords in your prompt. But we do see a few users do it now and then. Like LLMs made users like literally want magic, or like I don't want to use the word, but like be lazy, just do it everything. Like I don't want to do anything. I don't want to touch anything. But yeah, whatever you said is like very accurate.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
So I was kind of curious about a couple of things. We covered a lot of ground. We covered security, maybe like authentication, briefly touched on memory, how you save state and Google Sheets, parallelization, how you differentiate from LLMs. But I kind of maybe to work backwards. How do you think about security in like the general case? Because you mentioned you're different from Manus or other cloud-based computer use agents, which require you to send them your password. But don't you also look at the user's password, and what kind of a guarantee do you give users that you're not actually gonna leak their passwords if you guys get hacked on like the rare occasion?
So I just want to emphasize again, if you log in and it's already signed in, Retriever doesn't have access to the password. And if you just have your own password manager and Retriever just clicks sign in, again, we don't have access to the password at all.
But if the user comes in and is like, hey, use this username and password and sign in and then get data, then yes, for like a period of like a day in our logs, that retains. Yeah.
So if you don't include it in the prompt, we don't have access to it. But I think Operator and Manus have specific capability where you save the password. Like for Operator, you can say, remember my password. And like when you ask that task with OpenAI's Operator, it would like reuse that cookie. And how are they doing this, right? They have a fleet of cloud browsers that is running in their data center, and they have like storing to disk like your passwords and bringing it like in a new cloud browser session, loading your passwords into that new session. So this is like hard writing it. There are files of your passwords in these people's like data centers. So this is, I think, like a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of touched upon this at the event, but again, this is one of the Salesforce acquisition recently, the startup. It's funny. We were trying out
Convergence proxy. Yeah.
Yeah, we were trying out that startup. I don't want to give my ex account details, but I want to see how does it work. So I gave my password. It was about to deactivate my account, right? I was like, yeah. So I asked it to log out. It was about to deactivate, but I have 2FA, so it didn't go through end to end. So yeah, the problem with the cloud browsers is you cannot trust them. Even if one action will lead to something like your account deactivation or something, it's very like super bad for users.
I think what Vani wanted to emphasize is even though she closed the tab of the convergence proxy, like it still went on, kept executing.
Because the workflow I'm triggered on the cloud.
So with Retriever, if you close the extension,
I'll close the browser tab. Yeah.
it can't do any more possible action because it's interacting, driving the actuation locally through that extension mechanism. So you could imagine as soon as it leaves your device, right? Like then you can, yeah, like people are saying like, hey, we can have like a swarm of agents with your authenticated state doing stuff in the background. But who's monitoring them? Who is like keeping track? Are they deactivating your Twitter? How many other accounts you have with your credentials? I think it's better that these kind of agent swarms, parallelized actions happen on your own browser, so you can keep tabs. You can with Retriever, you could create a new Chrome profile with much less you own only the credentials, you're okay with it, so it doesn't make random purchases, or like it only has like
It's like a sandbox inbuilt.
oh, what happened there?
It's automatic stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a sandbox inbuilt with the extension, Chrome extension, rather than user setting up the sandbox. Yeah.
So I think that part makes sense. I can see how Retriever is better than these alternatives because it's running right in front of you. You have full control. You can stop it right in front of you. What about in the authenticate case? You're still sharing, your browser is such a personal thing. You're sharing your bank account information, your Google Docs, your notes, your maybe chat history. How do you store that data, and how do you ensure or like convince users that all of their data is not going to get stolen by someone else?
Yeah. So let's break into like two things. To answer your question first, yes, like a page that's getting loaded, let's say bank account page that's getting loaded, is used for Retriever to like do the task you want. And then we are storing it for like 24 hours because of the optimizations of like there's a back and forth on your bank page, like clicking or come going back into it, this and that, and it's automatically deleted again after 24 hours from our database as such. So
It's not even a database, it's just logs.
yeah, and also the 24 hours is because it's scheduled to delete automatically rather than deleting immediately, which is costly. So that's the only purpose. So one, we are not storing long term of any page that you load, any document that you load. Number two, we are so the Google Vertex AI or enterprise offering is such that whatever data that's Gemini using. So at our layer, we are not storing it or wiping it off after 24 hours. But at the Gemini layer, because we trust in Gemini's contracts of like Vertex AI offering, so they won't train the models on any of the data that's user inputs that are going into the Gemini. So yeah, that's the trust that we have there.
I want to add on, right? So really, it's kind of like a hidden but like not so hidden secret that anytime you're interacting with the browser, you're like those websites are tracking your like all of your interactions. And it's when I was training models at Google, I had features of like users browsing history. I was like, oh, what the like I was like I was like, oh, whatever, like I need to read from this database, I need to like train this model. And then like I actually like was like having problem with like the data type. So I like looked at the underlying features and I was like, oh, it's like literally people's like domains that they were browsing on their cookie browsing session. So it's like, yeah, with any of your interactions, like there is someone like me like trying to like or not like someone but like there is like a hidden secret that this kind of data is already being used by these big tech companies already. And it is true that Google, Amazon, maybe you're comfortable with them knowing everything about you already, so you don't really care as much. Okay, maybe I saw Mark like shaking his head. Is like, yeah, you live in your CAG. I feel like Kagi, anything that leaves your like any network call you're making, really, there is someone else on the other side, like who's getting that data, and they can piece together like what is happening.
Yeah, and also the second part of this is if you look at any of the other agents, browser use Manus or Operation, whatever, they all use a Puppeteer or Playwright or tools like this, which use permission called as Chrome Developer Tools (CDP). That's the most low level. It's called literally called debugger permission of like your browsers. This is the most low level permission you can give to your browser. What it does is with that low level permission, even if it's a headless browser or like a headful mode, whatever it is, if the browser decides to go to some malicious website, it can infect your whole, not just the browser, your whole system. Even if it's running on the cloud, it's the whole process is infected. If it's running it literally in your machine it's infected to. So one of the approaches we are taking is we are not adopting any of those libraries or sensitive permissions. We built our DOM library from ground up, which does synthetic actuation without taking any of the debugger low-level permissions, which makes it much more safer to run it in your browser and trust it fully of like, yeah, it's not making it prone to injections in any way. People are spinning up, other agents are spinning up whole new Chrome browser copy just for these additional permissions.
So it was funny, like at your event last week, we ran into like a couple of other competitors. Like it's fun. There's like fellow browser. So I was talking to him and I was like, okay, yeah, so you guys have created your own browser. Are you keeping up with the latest security patches, with the latest, like, how are you doing this? Like they're like, okay, we think like early testers don't want to like prioritize security over agentic features. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, that's insane. Like anyone using your browser, like, is kind of like exposed to these 0-day exploits, right? Like, that Chrome patches like every couple of weeks, every 2 weeks. So we think like compared to in terms of real security, right? Like there's various mechanisms you can kind of do this agentic like browsing. There is like us who are in a sandbox within the Chrome extension. There's others like browser use or like other Chrome extensions that are using these Chrome developer tools as a way to bypass all of these security, which is basically like root level browser access like tool. It can do whatever, like it has a ton of permissions and it has a lot of active exploits. So this Chrome CDP protocol, like if there is a malicious site, like as Bhavani mentioned, it can not only expose like your browser, but then using that CDP tool that has all of these permissions, it can easily escalate. Yeah. So in terms of real security, I think we're like have security notices everywhere on the website, on the extension. Hey, this is actually staying local. This stuff is like in a sandbox. Like we have like executing like function code for you, like to call APIs in a sandbox, for example. So we've really thought through on security on this, like carrying over from our Google days, like of really like we don't want to do hacky solutions that like these other players are doing.
Yeah, so I think that the security model, to me, it makes sense, right? I mean, um, a lot of these other sites and agents, they have their own browser that they're running everything in their own sandbox. They get everything. So I think, to me, having a Chrome extension, I mean, it's really limited to what you can do, right? You can only get access to the active tabs, right? Like there's really not like a whole lot to do. It's not like you can go and then do even anything outside the browser, right? It's not like you could go. I mean, maybe you could if you leverage some web APIs, but it wouldn't be likely that you'd be able to go and take over somebody's camera or something like that, right? Unless you were on a website that did like video calls, but for that you'd have to open it for you. But you mentioned to kind of get off the security topic for a little bit. I think the threat model makes sense to me. You mentioned a few times about the DOM library that you have and kind of how that's special and how you access the DOM on the browser is a little bit different than how a lot of these other agents use that. Could you maybe just first, for the listeners who have no idea what we're talking about, maybe just first explain what like the DOM is and then kind of how you interact with it better?
Yeah. So other players in this space are do a combined approach of like, hey, let's take a screenshot, like let's render a bounding box on all the elements that get rendered, and then take a screenshot and then submit to the model like combination of this and some like the of this in the HTML or like and like try to get the model to figure out how to interact with this page.
So when you say
So
like a
what
bounding box, you mean like if you're on a bank account, the model might just go look at the page, take a screenshot, and they can just look at your account details and then go and then interpret that just by the image only, right?
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
maybe I'll say take a step back of like answering what is DOM for people. Like most of the users know that web pages are made of like HTML. Like let's say like you're writing a document, they have or book, they have table of content, they have chapters and sections. DOM is nothing but the table of content sections, basically like a layout or structure of any web page that exists on the web. And that there is like a wealth of information in the structure of it that gives information to like LLMs, agents, or even scripts of like, oh, I need to first select search for shampoo, and then I need to click the results of the shampoo to add to the cart, something like that. So this information we represent in a DOM library in the most LLM optimized way of like uh, what is the right parent, what is the right child. So maintaining that hierarchy well, and it's not like a without any loss of information of almost like a graphical representation of nodes of HTML nodes in a web page. That's how we represent them. And going back to bounding boxes, now you have everyone has some information or some screenshot of a page. Now like people need to like click or type, basically interact with the web page. There are certain subset of HTML elements which are interactive. So most of these computer use agents, what do they do is they create like a rectangle around such a subset of interactable HTML elements. Now, once LLM identifies that, okay, click this red box that says login or like that has number 45, then your agent will go and like, perform a click operation on it or something like that. Yeah.
I think I can give a better analogy for even less technical audience. You could say the HTML DOM of a page is like an instruction manual for the browser on like how to render the page. Of like, hey, there's a box that needs to go here. There is like a text field that needs to go there. Um, and the one like this manual is very long. It is so you can't submit the whole manual to the LLM, and you need like some way to programmatically create a summary of this manual to put in the LLM context that allows you to not go over the context limit. And
Yes, the problem with again vision or screenshots is because a lot of the browsers, and let's talk about Chrome, the major one, has optimizations that they don't paint the whole web page. Essentially, they don't make the whole page visible. Uh, like on the vision based approach, they don't. The HTML will be there, or some of it is loaded, but the visual aspects of the web page are not loaded until unless you load it or make the tab active. So one of the problems with the screenshot based approach is you need to like scroll, take a screenshot, scroll, take a screenshot, like make it more inefficient to capture the data the user wants.
So to hammer it, it's a huge liability that you can't do multiple tab actions with this vision-based approach, because only the active tab gets rendered in Chrome browser, because otherwise you're quickly run out of battery of like you're rendering your 1,000 open tabs. But so with us, we can open tabs in the background and process them.
I love the depth of technical information that you both have, especially Bhavani with an MBA background. I'm surprised like how much in detail you're able to dive into the nitty gritty of your product, and especially compared to some of the alternatives out there. So maybe to summarize for the listeners, both Mark and I think we feel like you guys have thought about the security model pretty well. There's a pretty big advantage to other cloud-based computer use agents. This is running locally. This doesn't store all your passwords, and it's like transient logs. It's able to execute in multiple tabs in the background to take a lot of complex actions, store a lot of context in memory, and then display all of this information in like a custom visual dashboard, which, I'm sure over time you can customize and make it, pretty and more aesthetically pleasing. But maybe let's move on to one of the other cool, kinds of features that I noticed on your website, which is the workflows. So a lot of the other agentic AI companies wanted to build a sort of like an app store, because you have this LLM, which can do a lot of cool things, but once you wanted to take a complex series of actions to achieve something across multiple websites, using multiple tools, using a lot of context, it gets pretty complicated. So some of the workflows that you guys have built in, it seems like a lot of them have been generated by the two of you. And that is a really cool feature set, which would allow maybe like end users, regular customers, or even business use cases. Can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe like what led you to create that after the initial prototype? who's using it, and where you see this going.
Yeah, so you're referring to our retriever exchange. We've had this even before January of like maybe when we launched our product and we claimed like every other startup we claimed it as world's first agentic exchange, so on. The whole aspect of like automations is people want ease of use. They don't want to like figure out, like prompt, or even they want to like as much automate the things as possible. That's why and also sometimes in the initial phase of retriever, it has more knobs and buttons and stuff. Where not a lot of users are, going beyond the first button or exploring the various workflows that you can stitch with retriever. That's when this workflow exchange we created, where someone figured out something. Let's say I figured out like a stock data extraction, which is like a super multi-step of like go to Yahoo Finance, filter data, again get the data into sheets, sort them out, bunch of stuff, even like create a dashboard, whatever it is. And all the user has someone has figured it out, and shared it to retriever/exchange. All you have to do is just click this and add to the library, so it will be added in your library of like, and users can open like retriever
Sorry, for
extension.
the audio listeners, we're sharing the screen right now. We're talking, showing the website, showing the different workflows that are there. So Bhavani, did you just so basically the workflow exchange, it's a website that lists in a grid all of the workflows that you can
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
So, for example, you can get stock data from Yahoo Finance. You can get compare credit cards. You can get Amazon products. And then if you want to use one, you can just click on it, and then the retriever can run it for you. So you don't have to actually do the typing on your behalf.
I think it's so to answer the original question, we were a little bit inspired by Anthropic's artifacts. So like there's artifact like term every here and there throughout the web page. We were trying to encapsulate like a task that hey, I've run something X step task, and I want for example Bhavani to rerun it on her laptop. How do I encapsulate the required information into an artifact and be able to have Bhavani just add it and rerun it herself? So as we mentioned for this stock data one, oh, this is the actual, we also have output data, but
So people like users of Retriever can share a bunch of things. The workflows they built with Retriever, which is like tasks, or even if they're interested in sharing, oh, I extracted this data from some websites. So let's say I extracted this data of like used cars from a website, and you want to share it with others. You can like put it on Retriever Exchange so that others can use the data set if they want. I can cover the other things later, but this way it's much more easier to like get started with retrieval. So we want to promote that growth flywheel or growth cycle of like some users are building and sharing with others. It makes much more easier for the whole set of other users to adopt.
yeah, so you could see like, so each of those, like from your prompt, we have a planner that comes up with like multiple steps to do for an action, for a task. I'm trying to figure out if there's like one that has a 12 steps that this planner has come up with. And how do I run this sequence of steps on like rerun it predictably? Like kind of like a RPA kind of setup, because if you prompt it again, it might come up with a different plan. It might do a different sequence of actions, like completely different. So if we can encapsulate like these steps and like store it up and be able to for you to share it in our exchange. You could also share it privately as well, like where it's like a shared artifact that is just shared with the URL that is private. Yeah, but so I've added to Exchange and I can rerun it and it will be deterministic, like in a way. But if the website changes, for example, and like a button like changes, like the agent will still be able to figure out this is for this step, I need to do this specific like task. I hope that is clear.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what would you say are some of your favorite workflows that maybe you yourself use or that you've seen people use right now?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of like the functionality for that, we found the most functionality like helping people debug. Like we have a lot of customer calls, and it's like there's like usually 30-minute calls, and we have to figure out for like we usually like okay, we'll come back to you, and we usually figure it out ourselves, and then like set up like this shared artifact and get that like then they'll just re-execute it, and like they'll for them it's like easy time saver to just click a button and this whole thing is done. So that's good functionality. In terms of like our own personal use, I think like for me, what I found Retriever is really good for is automating LinkedIn outbound. Like, hey, there's all these people I met. Can you like add them as a connection? Can you like send these Y people like a message? So there's still limits on the LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn has hard coded limits of like you can only send X amount of messages a day, but or like you can only view Y amount of like profiles. But it's just like a little bit of a time saver for me to like even for the people I met today just to add them. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the cool use cases that I use pretty often for is signing up for events. Like like we all go to a lot of tech events.
So
And
Babani
you
is
want
sharing the screen of Tech Week New York events, and
there's like thousands of events. You can make retriever extract them and tell that, oh, I'm only interested in agentic events. So it can like extract and then like mark it as like event that you should attend or you should not attend. So that's all cool. But you can also be like, uh, I'm sure I must have like connected or like applied to like some RSVP to some of the events. You can literally ask retriever like RSVP to the event. So I opened like a partyful invite of like tech event from New York Tech Week, and I'm just like literally you can open retriever or on any tab that you are on, and I'm like RSVP RSVP me to the event. You can give the details here, or you can like put in the details in retriever's user profile. Let me give something of like I'm giving my name. Let me also give like LinkedIn. Um, say CDO, Retriever AI agents, like and fill other details as needed. Like I just wanted to like fill whatever it wants to need. So it should be able to like automatically RSVP to these events, filling all my details. Especially like a power event attenders will know the problem of like filling up thousands of events. So that's pretty cool of like offloading this task to Retriever. So it does in the background, like so I can do my own stuff. But in terms of
So how do you know what events you're going to go to? So let's say you
yeah,
have Retriever go and then say like, hey, uh, RSVP to the events that are interesting, but then like, how would I know exactly what events I've signed up for?
yeah, that's the best part. You can stitch together, like you can even ask like a composite workflow of like, hey, from the New York, okay, I'm the co-founder CTO of like an AI agent startup. I'm interested in meeting customers or fellow founders in the agent space. So RSVP me to only those events. So Retriever should plan it in a way that first it extracts the event stuff here and then maybe mark them as like, yes, you should attend or no, you shouldn't. And then second step would be those that are marked, yes, it will like go on and like it's, so yeah, it's completed. It RSVP me to this event.
so as we were talking, we were switching tabs, and Retriever in the background finished RSVPing to the
Yeah.
particle event.
Yeah.
And you could imagine like you could just be on the main list, and you could ask it to do it in parallel. So it could open all of those things in parallel and RSVP. And for these kind of tasks where it's like no cost to you to like send out these like requests or like invite requests, I guess. I think yeah, it doesn't really matter. I mean, for like Amazon purchases, yeah, I would like need to better track it. But this is, I think, where agents thrive at right now, where these menial tasks that cost little, like cost nothing if they go wrong, or if there's like too many things you requested access to.
Wait, so I have a question. Did you guys use Retriever to reach out to us for the podcast?
Oh no,
And
no. That's we actually get that a lot on podcasts. It's not the first time you were asked this. Yeah.
but maybe along those lines, I'm curious how we can kind of streamline our workflow. Because we plan a lot of events, we reach out to a lot of people, And we do some manual work to try to prepare for this, do some
Yeah.
research about Retriever, do some research about your personal history. How would we use Retriever to maybe plan for a podcast, for example?
Yeah, I have a cool use case. The really cool one of the, it's not like a feature in itself, but the cool thing I have today is I was doing this for another influencer. I'm gonna put it on. Oh my god, 1 second. I'm gonna put it on like X soon. Um, So let's say you have like you're in the space of podcast and you have like competitors and you want to look at you yourself have YouTube studio, you can look at view counts, how the video is performing or something. But if you want to like look at videos of others, how are they performing and stuff, you can use Retriever to like seamlessly extract data about whatever that you see on the YouTube yourself. And then that's one thing. But let's say you have like a video right here, right? I can be like, you have like let's assume there's a follower that added a comment and you want to like automate replying to them. I can be like, add a comment on this video based on the description, but you can be like, reply to the user based on what they commented, like something like that. Uh, I can just like do that. So like it's literally your social media management of like either analyzing your competitor podcast, whom are they getting or what are their views if certain users are or certain guests are performing well, and maybe you wanna like grab them too, something like that. The same thing is with similarly you can like make Retriever autonomously tweet, and the best part is scheduling. You can be like every day, run it every hour, post make a tweet on Retriever. And the thing, you don't even have to compose tweet yourself. Like plug it in combination of TechCrunch or plug it in whatever websites Hacker News. You can be like, yeah, it already commented. Go up. Yeah, there you go. The commentaries are in just literally right now. You can be like, select a corpus of things. You have thoughts documents, or you have like Hacker News. It can be like every hour, tweet it on X, or like yeah, search for these keywords on X, and then probably like gather insights about them. The same way, if you have like a list of people, and you want to go to their LinkedIn profile and send like a note, send a message, come to your podcast. Like everything, it's totally up to you.
So before the podcast, we were all discussing, like Mark was showing, mentioning like an example of what he was trying to use Retriever with, of like trying to get it to do a complex workflow of like, hey, find the Bitcoin price, the YBTC price, and create like like a ratio between them. So this is a little bit more complex. So like we're trying to focus more on like tasks that can be well atomized, well like discretized, and that are routine, that like you yourself are doing, right? Like that's what we're trying to emulate, right? Like you clicking and typing on the browser, getting our agent to do that, as opposed to this complex work. Like if you told me to do that, I would also just Google it and see if someone else has like done it, like right, yeah. So so it's like a different mindset, and I think it's like similar to like a mindset that we've evolved. Like on Google, you need to type keywords. You writing a paragraph into Google is not going to work. So it is us collectively understanding, hey, LLMs or agents at their current state need can do discretized tasks that are well like uh like simple, I guess, in a way. Yeah.
I love this so much. It's giving me a lot of ideas to streamline our workflow because we have a lot of custom login portals with meetup.com, YouTube, Luma, where we have to like interact with people. So if this can automate some of that process, that would be like a lifesaver. One question that comes to mind, especially with the scheduling, what if it needs some input from the user? Is there some like call to action that can like request information from me as the user, or is it mostly only automated workflows?
Yeah. So again, and if you go to Retriever extension, as of today, you need to like click on this calendar schedule thing to like create your schedule, and like you can give a name to the schedule task. You let's say apply to some jobs, and then you like as I mentioned, run it every hour on Mondays or something like that. And then you generate with Retriever, so it will generate the schedule for you automatically. So we are generating like a cron schedule, and then let's say you want this specific task of adding comments on YouTube video, you want to run every hour. Like you select this, you can select multi-step too. So you if you want to like add one more step, you can add one more step of okay, after adding the comments, go to like Twitter and then post something. So you can do like one more thing as well. And then,
So
yeah.
So it's like you've already done the task like in the extension, like while it's open.
And you verify it's successful and
And
stuff. Yeah.
during that execution, Retriever will prompt you if there's any confusion, like the planner maybe needs some more information on the Google Sheet to write to, for example. So we'll prompt you back to like fill out some fields. And but then after it has executed, it has saved an artifact that you can then re-execute offline. Or like that so basically we package this like artifact that either you can schedule or you can share it on the exchange, someone else can run on their own thing. And either way, like since it's already like defined and the steps are defined, there is no further prompting. Yeah.
Yeah, but we've seen users again, they want magic. They don't even want to click the schedule panel. We've seen them asking, hey, create me a schedule to like tweet every day or like whatever. Right. So maybe yeah, that's in the future, but right now you have to like click on the schedule panel to like schedule the previous runs. Yeah.
Makes sense. I love it. And I'm not saying that people should necessarily automate YouTube comments for our YouTube channel, but I'm not saying don't do that either. So, you guys do what you want, but, make sure you follow the terms and conditions. But yeah, we would love some more comments on the YouTube channel. So, yeah, it might be a little fun AI project, but, we're not saying do that. But, anyways, you mentioned future plans for Retriever. I think we've really kind of explored, what the current state of Retriever is, and we're curious, what's next? What do we have to look forward to on the horizon for Retriever? Is there anything that you're working on that you'd like to share?
Yeah, would love to. We recently, just as of today, launched this feature to set up like being able to add a MCP, like basically Retriever as a MCP client. So we're sharing the screen where you can
In the tools section of Retriever, you can bring in any MCP. So for example,
Sorry, could you just for the listeners, because I know MCP is a relatively new thing. Can you just kind of briefly describe what MCP is?
So MCP is a model context protocol released by Anthropic, where basically it's like a server that uh, exposes a set of tools for your model to like. So and that it goes into tool calling, where you can expose functions that your agent can call based on like the description, and like it will automatically provide the parameters to that function. So we have this tool calling feature built into Retriever where you can define your own custom functions to call. So it's like we have this tool library where, hey, I need to have this like function that calls this
Google
API.
Jobs API.
And the LLM could decide, hey, I should call this to answer this user question. So we have those tool calls, and you like an MCP server basically encapsulates a set of them where you just by sharing a URL, like I can easily import like a multiple tools all at once. And with Zapier, which is like a integrator across like 8,000 different websites, you can configure like Gmail, HubSpot, so many different tools all at once. And we just right now imported based on this Zapier URL, like the tools here, like for example, Gmail create draft. So Zapier integrated with Gmail to expose this tool, and with this MCP protocol, we're just able to import it directly to Retriever, and now Retriever can call this to create a Gmail draft.
Yeah, and say for example, I selected my LinkedIn. It's gonna be just time taking, but I can do a quick one, or maybe
Yeah, just do a really quick one on like
yeah. Say for example, this is literally my own events. Like let's say right, create me create an email draft, sending email to let's say Arjun at the Retriever AI with summary of this event or like promoting this event, whatever it is. So it should automatically pick up the MCP tools associated. Right now, the email draft tool is only Zapier tool, so it should call this.
You could
So
see it in the thought itself of the model that, hey, I need to call this Zapier MCP tool and I need to provide these instruction parameters and
yeah,
these
it's
other
already done.
parameters.
Yeah. So it's already done of like executed that. So we can go and like check out drafts. Mm.
I think that was unrelated because you switched tabs,
Yeah.
but so
Just event is good.
oh, so yeah, we are showing in the video screen share that like Retriever was a little bit confused on the instructions and it prompted back like what exactly to set in the subject of the email. And so it prompted back like, hey, what are the details you want here? And like Bhavani just mentioned, just the event details is fine. And
So now you should call the tool with all the right details as such. But why is he showing this is right now we support our own like bringing users bringing the yeah, so we got the event to like Arjun and stuff.
so we have a Gmail draft created already in Bhavani's inbox, or not inbox, draft box, where it's like email address to me with the content of the event. And this was done by Retriever calling this Zapier MCP tool that we just imported right now.
Yeah, so our future pipeline with MCP is a lot of users want to connect with Retriever either as a tool or as a server endpoint that they can plug in with other scripts or other websites or agents that they are building themselves. So we'll be soon, we are aiming June first week, we'll be launching Retriever as an MCP server, sorry, as an MCP endpoint. So that unlocks a whole new capabilities. Now you can bring this MCP server of Retriever in your Gemini or in your like Claude, ChatGPT, wherever it is.
Cursor, like so basically what we envision is that there's like a ecosystem, like a mesh of apps on your end user device that are communicating with each other using exposed MCP like tools. So maybe from Cursor, you're like, hey, find me the documentation on this API endpoint. And it will open Retriever on the browser, and Retriever will start like trying to find this documentation and give you back the details to Cursor. And you could imagine this end-to-end like amount of communication happening all.
Yeah, and let's say you can now trigger it from even your local scripts, or if you want, like, you're like a team of 5, you want to like trigger Retriever endpoints across all the 5 people to do some like distributed job of like data extraction or subscribing to a bunch of events, whatever it is. Now it will be possible. So that's one thing we're pretty excited about.
So to hammer on, like Bhavani was mentioning, we're calling it like a federated cloud. So there's a like a lot of websites beyond just blocking data center IPs, also like limit per profile like interactions. And so like you can only visit 100 LinkedIn profiles, for example. But you have a data set, like you're looking at like 200 or so people you want to hire, and you need to rank them. And you need to go to their LinkedIn, but like LinkedIn is just blocking you. So it's like, hey, if I have these Retriever endpoints across like my team, right? Like, and I want to distribute this work of like these 200 profiles to process across my whole team's like devices, then you can distribute that using our cloud endpoint, and we'll trigger this execution on your own device, process this X rows, and construct like a master data set.
That's a really interesting paradigm. So it seems like you're trying to combine your local execution with the browser extension and a lot of other LLMs, functions, tool calling, which operate remotely on the cloud. So one thing you mentioned is working today is you as the Retriever browser extension can call Zapier extensions, but you want to do it the other way around as well. So if I want to, for example, work on my local software project with Cursor, and I need some personal information, for example, from meetup.com for our website, you could call Retriever, log into our meetup, get all the personal information, all the history of events, and then send it back to Cursor.
Yeah.
That kind of feels like you would become a foundation for a lot of different use cases. How would that work? Would you have to like expose the user's personal browser and local host or something? Because I assume it would only work on your laptop. It wouldn't work from somewhere else.
So your extension, so you're right. There should still be retriever extension installed on the browser of some device somewhere, and the device should be open. Or else, whenever the device comes alive the next time, it can like trigger or trigger the workflow. We have like a whole vision of like making it possible to, hey, now you can like even talk to retriever WhatsApp bot of like, oh, I'm at this conference, I'm about like, tell me someone I'm interesting to meet. It should be able to trigger this thing on your laptop and do it for you. So the possibilities are numerous. Yeah, we are pretty much looking forward to this of like, yeah, making it available to users.
But in terms of the underlying mechanism, I think like it is kind of common existingly for some Chrome extensions to expose like a WebSocket for like to do some communication. And so with that open WebSocket, you can, so there's already like a couple of these I've seen floating around of MCPs in the Chrome, like MCP browser, but as a like so it's like a similar concept that we've seen already tested out. We just need to implement it ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially it's a server endpoint plus the protocol details, so like your agent card of like what can retriever do or what all additional tools. Like if you look at Zapier, there are like bunch of like child tools. Zapier itself is not a tool in itself. So like retriever can be the browser tool, but also like all of the small things that you integrate with retriever, they can also be exposed through retriever.
And as you saw with that Zapier URL, it was kind of hashed out. It is like, so anyone who has access to that Zapier MCP server URL could create a draft email on Bhavani's account. So it is like sensitive, and it is like, so it's just the URL that is the key thing here. And so it's like a whole it's baked into all of these MCP servers. It is like a universal characteristic right now that the URL is a key thing here that is sensitive. It is almost as if it's an API key.
Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting idea to be able to have the retriever call your computer. But I'm actually kind of curious, like how would it work for somebody? So let's say, I have a workflow that I want to use that needs to hit my computer, and let's say, I'm at the gym, I'm asleep. Does that whatever, does that mean that I just kind of need to keep my computer running at all time, just running an instance of the retriever client, just waiting for a Zapier call? Or is there going to be maybe like a way that you could do it where um, maybe there's some sort of like sandbox that you could have in the cloud that is with your credentials, so it could be a little bit less hands off, and as opposed to like having your own computer run as like a server that's just like always there.
Yeah,
Yes.
moving closer to like the Manus or operator model.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, we thought about it. We were like, okay, we could just do like a classical cloud thing, like set up some cloud browsers. And what do? They face that same restrictions of like these websites are just inaccessible. Like you also need to now again share the password to this remote cloud browser. You need to like ensure state maintenance like between whatever's running locally and this cloud sessions. So it's like we were like, okay, we don't want to do this thing over and over. There's so many thousands of solutions like this, and we want to do something like a new approach on this and like build off of like the extension we have. So that's why we didn't want to do this like kind of cloud sandbox. And again, like how do these kind of things work, right? So you have like you have a server that is launching literally a browser because and like this browser is running in a cloud server, already expensive, and then you need to hire proxy networks so that it gets around these website blocks. So like what are these proxy networks? So every time you install like a VPN, like a free VPN, they like pay themselves a little bit of money by proxying other people's like requests in addition to like providing you like proxying your requests like to like a different country, for example. So that's how you get around these website blocks. It's like you have like something that's running in a data center. It's like I need to make a call to YouTube. And so like the VPN provider has like a side deal to like these like this whole ecosystem of proxies that this residential like laptop will then proxy this request to YouTube and like forward the results back to this browser. And you can see like that is like it's a very complex workflow. You can just like cut all of it out just by putting a Chrome extension that is executing on the user's browser. That's our whole thing we want to explore on. Yeah.
That's an awesome future use case. I would love to be able to just, like Mark was saying, walk around the gym and, oh, I forgot something on my computer I need to do, and then send a chat in WhatsApp and have Retriever do something on my laptop or somewhere else.
I did forget. So even further in our like we mentioned it to others and published it before, is that we want to set up like a marketplace where similar to those, but like you consent to forwarding other people's requests for credits. So we can eventually become like free for users. Like it become like, hey, like someone needs to construct this data set of all of these like I don't know, like these
Let's say someone is building like an archive of like X, like they don't want to lose the history of X, and everyone is constructing like certain query as such. If you as a user of Retriever opted into that, so your browser bandwidth will be used to extract, let's say, digital marketing content on X, and someone will have like political science content on X or whatever. So
So like basically someone has this valuable data set that they want to create, and they could use our network of installed Chrome extensions of people who have consented to and opted into this to construct this data set very cheaply without like having cloud browsers and proxies. And so it'll be much cheaper for them. And on the other side, for users, using Retriever comes out to be break even for them. And we don't know what is like it's just putting it like as a vision. So we don't know when it will be out.
we reach en masse a huge amount of users. We are at 3,000 plus as of today. So looking forward to that future, I will say.
So in this future vision you have for the marketplace is kind of the idea that people would be able to make some sort of
Credit.
plugin for Retriever, and then they would be able to get maybe paid, and the people would pay them to get access to that. And then they might even be able to, make a little business out of, on top of the Retriever platform. Is that kind of the idea that you have?
Yep.
So not necessarily a plugin. We think if we showed that workflow website earlier, we think you could ask users for like a credits based. We already have credits in the extension, like subtracting our LLM cost for your subscription. But you can like pay credits to install like a workflow someone else has mastered, or like a data set someone else has constructed. And conversely, you can get credits for contributing to someone's like data set or like executing someone else's workflow.
Oh, just like providing the bandwidth on Retriever extension. If you're a user of Retriever and you enabled, okay, use my bandwidth at like 9 a.m. Mondays to like process any requests you have. And then our idea is we'll give like Retriever credits in return, but it can be like more monetary thing as you're mentioning.
So I like the idea, although I feel like some people may have the question that if this could be maybe abused, because it sounds to me like you're just creating some sort of botnet that could be used to, DDoS websites, take places down, or like, mass spam comments, something like that. Is there any kind of, I don't know, like content moderation that you have in mind?
Yeah, so the idea is that the data sets you would be able to see and consent to the rows that are being that you want to contribute. Originally, the idea was like it's like open source. It's like I want to contribute these rows to the data set, like it's yourself. But then we were like, okay, maybe it makes more sense. Like the person constructing the data set has like a requirement, and you decide what you want to contribute to. So it's more that you can see ahead of time what you want to like have running before letting it run. And yeah, but the analog is you're kind of already doing this with VPNs. Like there's a whole murky ecosystem of residential proxies where it's like someone has like this software installed on like a bunch of people's like Android TVs. And then they're like doing a bunch of botnet scraping through these Android TVs. Like literally, that is going on right now. But we want to bring this more open, like more like transparent, yeah, and do this like more effective too. Yeah.
But whatever you mentioned are some things definitely should be keeping, like we should be keeping them in mind before we, like, like fully take on this path. But this is the, I would say, like more of like the vision we are heading towards with Retriever.
But it's a really exciting vision, honestly, and I'm really excited to see, how everything evolves. Because I mean, we're just talking right now about, what it will be, but I'm sure that, the next coming years, I'm sure Retriever is gonna have a lot more users, a lot more use cases, and just continue to grow. But that's about all the questions we kind of had for you guys. Is there anything that we didn't ask you that you think maybe we should have asked you, or anything that you want to mention yourself?
I think we covered most of the ground. I know you have to like edit a lot because we took a lot of time. In the interest of time,
Oh, we don't edit this.
Oh. I thought we were fixing it in post. But no, I think we dive really deep into a lot of topics and a lot
We've
of
never shared this end vision except for VCs talks we had. We haven't, delved into anyone. He jumped onto it, but yeah, we were like, it's just the good interaction we are having. Yeah.
we need to build hype. But yes, I think that's mostly it. We are really excited for the opportunity to put our vision out there, to drive user like interest and like see like the problems we're facing as well as the problems we're trying to solve with our extension, our web agent. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's really exciting, and we'll put all of your links in the description so people can find you and they can download it. Hopefully, people listening to this will find it useful. And yeah, I think that's all we had for today. So everybody, thanks for listening. Guys, thanks for taking the time with us and sharing your vision. It was a lot of fun. So, uh, guys, we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
No, thank you.
And